Little known fact to some is that a man called Ralph Baer, who invented a popular 70s and 80s game called Simon, which is still sold today, is also the same man who brought us the very first commercial video game console back in 1972 called the Magnavox Odyssey, which had sold a total of 350,000 units by the time the console was discontinued in 1975. The console spawned the Odyssey series of dedicated consoles in 1976 that were limited to one or two specific video games. This marked the beginning of the first generation of video game consoles and also gave rise to the commercial video game industry. In 1967, when Baer was developing a prototype of the Odyssey, he had managed to create two-player control spots on the screen. He later added Bill Rush to his team, who came up with a way to display a third console control spot on the screen. Bill also proposed the development of a ping-pong game for the console. By January of 1971, Magnavox signed an agreement and started producing the consoles. Meanwhile, an electrical engineer and American businessman called Nolan Bushnell, along with a colleague named Ted Dabney, founded a company called Atari in 1972. After making a deal with a company called Bally to create a video game and pinball machine, they hired their first employee called Al Alcorn. That same year, Bushnell visited Magnavox in May of 1972 and saw a demonstration of the Magnavox Odyssey with Baer and Rush's tennis game. Bushnell decided to have Alcorn produce an arcade version of the Odyssey's tennis game. This became the company's first game and they called it Pong. It was shortly followed by the home version of Pong in 1975 that was based on the arcade version. Atari had a limited release of home Pong through the Sears department stores but was successful, selling roughly 150,000 units during the holiday season. Atari sold an additional 50,000 units through its own version. This eventually led to Magnavox suing Atari, Sears, Bally, and many others. Atari settled out of court in June of 1976 and was offered an agreement to become a licensee for $1.5 million, payable in 8 installments. Atari accepted the agreement and continued to make sequels of the Pong video game and released Pong Doubles, Super Pong, Ultra Pong, and Pin Pong. While all the sequels featured similar graphics, they included new gameplay elements. For example, Pong Doubles allowed 4 players to compete in pairs. They also continued to release versions for Sears department stores through Sears' tele-games, and in 1977, Pong 4 was released, which was Sears' version of Pong Doubles. While there's a lot more history behind this little tennis video game, we can see just how important it was for the development of the video game industry and how it played an important part of our history. And of course, I was lucky enough to find one for only $10, so stick around and watch me take it apart and give it a well-deserved new life. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm the Retro Opera Guy. So if ever you heard my voice in the beginning that was like really deep or anything, yeah, I've got this new microphone. It's really cool actually. I saw it on another channel, another YouTube channel, and I picked it up because it's great for voiceover, but it wasn't the problem. The problem is I lost my voice. It came back now. It's still a bit scratchy, but it came back. The reason is it's been 86 to 46. Like it's really been insane, right? In temperature. So that's like 30 to 8 degrees. It's been insane up and down. I had to turn on my seat and put the heating back on. So all it was doing is playing up and down. And at one point it threw me some error codes because I spent 2 days trying to repair it, but it was just, the little sun and the little snowflake. I mean, I kept switching back and forth, Mr. RG's, I'm freezing and then I'm hot. And then so I'm playing with this thing, and it's not good to play with a thermal pump. It's just gonna blow up on you. Anyway, so what are we looking at today? The Pong 4 by Sears Telegame, which is of course by Atari. Now I picked up this thing for $9.99. I am one of those bidders that go in 10 seconds before it ends and get it. But in all honesty, I was the only bidder. So $9.99, I was very happy to get it. And because it was so cheap, I picked up 2 other things. By the way, for the Pong 4, I hope you don't mind, I've asked Mrs. RG to join us today for some testing. Now, I don't know if she knew what I was asking her to do exactly, but she's going to make herself available. Now, so I picked up 2 other things. I picked up the Atari, not the heavy sixer, I believe it's called the light sixer. It's still made in Sunnyvale, California, so made in America, not made overseas, and it's the big sixer. So I don't know if you're interested in seeing that being restored on the show. Please let me know in the comments below. As well as I picked up a Super Famicom, really yellowed out, disgusting, have no idea if it works, but let me know if you're interested in seeing that as well being restored. Otherwise, if you got some ideas, let me know. I am always looking for stuff. And if you have anything you want to send me, reach out to me and let me know. Unfortunately, so many people ask me, can I fix things? Can I fix things? It's not feasible. Just the mail to cost a fortune to have it delivered a package. And on top of that, what's going to happen is it's going to get broken. And I don't have the time. I really don't have the time. I'm filming this show. I'm trying to fix these things. It takes me, really 40 to 50 hours a week of work on my YouTube videos for all kinds of stuff. Includes the restoration, the filming, the editing, everything. So it's a full-time job. So I really apologize, but I can help you out a little bit. I answer the comments, I answer emails, and I try to do my best here. But anyways, let me know if you want anything in the comments. I answer everybody, and I'm letting you know, by the way, again, that the store is up and running. That's retrorepairguy.com, retrorepairguy.com altogether. Very simple. The store is up and running. We accept, of course, some donations to keep the show going. But at the same time, you can buy the stuff that I fix on the show here. I don't put everything because some of it is bad quality, but I do put the good stuff on there, like the drum machine and whatever. So if you're interested, go take a look. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and see what we can do with this Pong 4. This video is sponsored by Pixabay, an exceptional manufacturer of printed circuit boards of all types. They make top quality PCBs from your Gerber files starting at only $5. Whether you're in need of getting your own PCBs manufactured with reasonable prices for production runs or simply a one-off prototype PCB, they offer excellent quality and unsurpassed service to help you with your designs and free online quotes. With quick turnaround times and fast delivery, I definitely recommend checking them out. The link is in the description below. I found the unit on an auction site for only $10. I'll admit it didn't look bad on pictures, but I wasn't disappointed because I love cleaning these things up. All the wires were tangled up, so I had to start with that, and the power supply is the original one that came with the unit, but it looked like it took a beating, so I'm going to set it aside and use my universal one just in case. For the switch box, there's really no need to use it if your TV or monitor has an integrated tuner. Looking inside will show you it's an empty box with wires from an RCA connector to an RF one. You can buy a bag full of RCA to RF connectors on the Jungle site for about $10 and connect the wire directly to your tuner. The unit turns on, but you still hear the white noise from the TV channel. The paddles barely respond and very hard to control, and you still hear the sound coming from the game mixed in with the white noise. I tried selecting other modes of the game, but it's even worse and I don't seem to be able to play. So let's go ahead and open it up. I began by removing the shield so that I can access the components and desolder them. I also pulled out the AMI chip since I intended to redo the solder joints on the chip and didn't want the chip to be heated or damaged in any way, and it would give me a chance to clean the IC socket at the same time. While soldering, I noticed that many joints on the board were cracked and had holes in them. I then cleaned the area I worked on with 99% alcohol and noticed that many components on the board had some kind of mold on them. So I went ahead and removed whatever was left so I can clean everything and throw the board in the dishwasher before I went any further. The board is out of the dishwasher. There's a little bit of white residue on the older solder joints, but it comes off easily with 99% alcohol. The top side of the board is now mold-free and looks a lot better. There's only one electrolytic capacitor on the board, and while I have many on hand, I wanted to keep everything original, so I ordered an axial aluminum capacitor to match the old one. I removed and tested the old one. It's a 470 microfarad, and it tested at 664 and was showing both ESR and voltage loss. It clearly had surpassed its lifetime. The new capacitor I ordered is manufactured by 𝗖𝗛𝗘𝗥𝗦. It's rated for a higher voltage and a temperature rating of 105 degrees. This should help it last a little longer. The legs of the new capacitor were a little bit thicker and were a bit of a tight fit, but overall, the new capacitor fit perfectly. There's an IC on board called a hex inverter made by Texas Instruments. I ordered the exact same one by Texas Instruments just in case because I wanted to remove it and put an IC socket and help with possible future repairs, making it easy to remove. After pulling a little on the old one to get it out, I wanted to keep things looking clean, so I just installed a new one. Visually, I didn't see any damaged components, so I tested each diode one by one. I found one that was giving me some weird readings, so I removed it from the circuit to test it. It turned out to be okay, but again, to keep things clean, I installed a new one. After redoing most of the soldering and adding the IC socket, I tested the traces for continuity to make sure the IC pins were all connecting properly. I did some tests off camera, and the image was still not to my liking, so I tested and replaced a few of the old ceramic capacitors. They didn't test that far off spec, however still showed 123 nanofarad for 100 with some voltage loss compared to the new one that tested at 98 with negligible voltage loss. I then cleaned the channel select switch, IC socket of the 𝗖𝗛𝗔𝗣𝗧𝗘𝗥𝗦 chip, and video connector with electrical contact cleaner. I want to give you a couple of notes if you ever attempt to repair this Pong for yourself. So first of all, first thing I want to say is the board, okay? The board is very sturdy, it's very thick, very nice. However, the coating on it is very, very thin and sort of powdery. I don't know how to explain it, but as soon as you touch your iron on it, it almost evaporates, okay, and melts into the solder. So it's very easy to make a short, okay? It's not like you drop solder or on the board or you touch something else and you just take it off. It actually sticks to the board because it exposes the copper right away. It's really insane the way it's made. So you got to really be careful when you're soldering on there. At the same time, this is a double-sided board, so you got to let the solder melt through. So when you're putting it and you really leave your iron there to make sure it melts all the way through to the other side, okay? Because there's not really much space to solder on the other side as well, okay? But anyways, if you work on it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So don't crank up your iron too hot, because since you've got to stay there longer, if you're, stay too long, you can lift a trace if it's too high or burn a component or whatever. So just be careful how you solder on there. I did have a couple of trace lifted and it wasn't even, it's not my fault, not that I, okay, but really, a couple of traces lifted. It's old, right? It's 1976. At the same time, there was only one electrolytic capacitor on there. It was really off spec, but I actually ended up replacing a couple of ceramic capacitors. I rarely do that unless they're broken. The reason I did here is the image still was not to my liking. I changed the wire. I put a thicker wire, and the image became clearer. However, the wire that came with it should still be 75 ohms. Now what I did is I put back the original wire, and when I didn't see the picture, after I changed these with the original wire, the image was clear. So obviously this was the problem. But what I would want to say about these capacitors is that they rarely break, but they do peel off. They're very easy, some of them, for some reason, especially this one. It looked like there had been mold on it. I don't know where the unit was left. So it might have damaged the components, okay? It's possible. And one of them had I'll show you if I can see it on camera, but one of them had a big mark in the back, okay, like a hole. So obviously this one was completely off spec. It was missing ceramic on it, and it just keeps peeling off. So, obviously I changed it with some good quality ones from today. So it helped. I'm not saying to change all the ceramic capacitors because there's really normally no need to, like I said, unless they're broken or anything. But the electrolytic capacitors, of course, they dry up and stuff. But in this case, check them out if ever you're getting a bad image. And like I said, be careful of how you're going to be soldering. So a few notes about the retro brighting. The retro brighting, now I've talked about it before, not as much as I do about capacitors, but I do want to say the retro brighting technique, the sun works even better than the UV lamps, because I started the process at 5 p.m. and I wanted to run all night. And with the LED lamps, it doesn't heat, so I could put it right on top of the bin, of the plastic bin. It doesn't get hot, but it doesn't work as well as the sun. So what you see in the restoration video is the result of 20 hours exactly with hydrogen peroxide and the UV lamp. I do think it would have worked better outside. And at the same time, I think I added a little bit too much hydrogen peroxide. I always put some warm water. So this is what I've done. And if you're a chemist out there and you happen to be watching this, please let me know. I'd love to know proper mixture, because nobody's able to answer that. I'd love to know why hydrogen peroxide seems to accelerate the process, because it really does. I've tried it in the sun just by itself. It works, but it takes like a week. The hydrogen peroxide accelerates the process. But today, in this restoration, first time I noticed that putting a little too much seems to have caused a little white spot on the paddle at one point, almost removing the color. So anyways, if you're a chemist, like I said, please drop me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. If anybody knows any more information about, the proper mixture, please let me know. As usual, the unit turning on always makes me happy. You can see all the snow and distortion in the image we saw in the beginning is gone. I did not change the cable, it's still the original one plugged in, the same way it was in the initial testing. Other modes of the games like single player also now work. My young apprentice was really curious as to what exactly this thing was, so I let her try it as well. I'm not too great at coordinating two panels, and Mrs. RG is nowhere to be found, so let's go find her.
Hello. Are you ready to play tennis with me? Do you like my new outfit?
Yeah, I like your new outfit, but you realize it's just a video game, right?
What do you mean video game?
Like I needed your help to test the video game.
Okay, then we have to make a deal.
Ugh. Okay, what's it gonna be?